And good afternoon, everyone. I hope everyone can hear us, and we're live and direct. And welcome to the Township of Douro-Dummer's council meeting on this October 5th, 2021. We're coming to you live on YouTube and also being recorded, so you could watch the contents of the meeting at a later time. So we welcome you, and we will be conducting the meeting as efficiently as we possibly can. I'd like now to call the roll of members of council so we know who is here. First of all, Councillor Watt is not appearing
Mr.
just
Mayor,
yet.
it appears that Councillor Watt is just connecting at the moment.
Councillor Landsman.
Here.
Thank you, Sheila. Councillor Watson.
I'm here.
Good. Thank you very much. And we understand Councillor Watt will be on in just a moment. The staff in attendance, our CAO, Alana Arthurs. Alana, big wave from you. You're in the sunbeam there in your office. Our deputy clerk is Martina Jade Hartwig. Martina, hi, welcome. Our manager of public works, Jake Condon. Jake, there's the face. Good to see you. Our interim treasurer, Paul Creamer, is here. Paul, how are you? Thank you. And Brian Fawcett, our chief building official, is also with us. And for the record, Councillor Watt has now joined the meeting. Okay, so with all of council in attendance, I will call the meeting to order, and we respectfully acknowledge that we're on the treaty and traditional territory of the Mississauga and Anishinaabe, and we offer our gratitude to our First Nations peoples for their care for and teachings about our earth and our relations. May we honor those teachings. I'd like all of us just to take a very quick moment of silence to think about our job as members of Douro-Dummer Council, and also to pay respect for members of our community who have passed away since our last meeting. Please join us for a moment of silence. Thank you very much. Do any members of council have any pecuniary interest with any of the matters we're dealing with? Okay, seeing no hands. The agenda that is before us here on this 5th of October. A motion, please, to approve that agenda as presented. Heather and Tom, all in favor? That motion is approved. The minutes of the September 1st, 2021 meeting are before you as well. A motion, please, to receive and approve those minutes. Sheila, seconded by Tom. Discussion? All in favor? That motion is approved. Any business arising out of those minutes? Seeing no hands, we will indeed move forward. Okay, we have a busy night tonight. We do have a presentation from Rhonda Keenan. Rhonda, I'm not seeing your face on here yet. And we also have a couple of public meetings to deal with as well. So we'll try to be as efficient as we can. Okay, without further ado, Rhonda, we're always good to see you. And also Tracy Bertrand, we got lucky and we got the duo tonight. That's great. And the subject is all about short-term rentals. So, Rhonda, I turn it over to you.
Well, thank you so much, Your Worship, and Township of Douro-Dummer Council. Thanks for having us here to talk about this issue. As the mayor said, we do have Tracy Bertrand with me. We'll be taking turns presenting to you, and I'm just going to share my screen right now for that presentation. Go. See if it's going to work. Okay. Everything, is the screen okay for everyone? Wonderful. Okay. So for today, we're going to be talking about short-term rentals. I know that this is a controversial topic in your community, and so for today, we just wanted to be able to have a brief conversation and start the conversation with council, provide information on tourism overall, how the sector itself is changing, and then specifically about short-term rentals, the trends, the opportunities, the concerns, and then a little bit about how other communities are really dealing with this difficult topic. And with that, I will turn it over to Tracy.
Thank you, Rhonda. Good evening, Council, and everyone watching tonight. Peterborough and the Kawarthas is a sought-after destination and welcomes approximately 3 million visitors each year. This visitor spend contributes to over $300 million to our local economies. We're seeing these tourism trends evolve, and dare we say that this destination has become even more popular during the pandemic. Domestic travel is now on the rise, and COVID restrictions have shifted consumer behavior and purchase decisions. Small and rural communities like Douro-Dummer, with an abundance of lakes and wide open spaces, have seen a dramatic increase in the demand from the visitor economy. The appeal and the demand for private accommodation is rising in rural destinations, and this is not about to go away, while the demand for traditional accommodations for vacations is declining. Worldwide, the tourism sector overall has been hit very hard due to COVID-19. Provincially and nationally, this may also be the case. However, for smaller, more rural communities like Douro-Dummer, the opposite may be happening. While we are seeing the cancellation of large events like Havelock Jamboree or Music Fest in Peterborough, some businesses have identified that they are doing better than they've ever done before. Local grocery stores, retailers, bakeries, and restaurants in 2020 and 2021 saw more demand than they could almost handle. Visitor decisions have also changed from price being the number one contributing factor to safety being the number one reason for a purchase decision. The data is also indicating that many want to escape the urban centers like Toronto and Ottawa for the tranquility of rural environments, thus increasing the demand for destinations like Peterborough and the Kawarthas. Research is also indicating that the most popular reason to travel right now is to visit friends and families, thus making destinations with large seasonal residents very popular. This trend is expected to continue well past 2022. The cottager as a visitor is a very important market for a destination like Peterborough and the Kawarthas. The Federation of Cottagers Association completed a report several years ago that reinforced the value and importance of seasonal residents to the community and to the visitor economy. As you know, Douro-Dummer has a population of approximately 6,700 permanent residents, but adds a significant amount of seasonal residents for several months of the year. And with it, some significant spending in the community while they are here. Since COVID-19, they are visiting earlier and staying longer. Cottaging is a coveted Canadian experience, and while many dream or may dream of owning their own cottage, sometimes it's not a financial reality for most. So renting a cottage is a way for people to have the cottage experience, the fishing, the canoeing, the swimming, the campfiring, the boating, but in an affordable way to escape the big city and reconnect with nature, even if it is for just a short time. Visitors have a variety of options when considering a vacation or a getaway. The traditional accommodation options are hotels, motels, and resorts. Other accommodations are licensed bed and breakfasts, which are B&Bs, campgrounds, and trailer parks. Peterborough and the Kawarthas has a variety of traditional lakeside cottages and resorts. However, many are beginning to show signs of their age and are being sold for waterfront developments, which may impact options for visitors to choose from in the future. We also have the non-traditional yet very popular option of cottage or home rentals, otherwise known as short-term rentals. Short-term rentals are not a new phenomenon, but the visitor demands for this type of accommodation is growing in popularity and showing no signs of slowing down.
Great, thank you. And then we've heard a lot about short-term rentals or the home sharing economy. They're defined as private home or cottage rentals for less than 28 days. In Ontario, home sharing is one of the fastest growing sectors in the sharing economy. It's being driven by consumers that are looking for choices, flexibility, lower cost, and information at their fingertips, or at least from their cell phones. The home sharing platform is present in over 190 countries across the globe. Some communities have readily adopted short-term rentals, such as Belleville, Quinte West, Kingston, Prince Edward County, Huntsville, Township of Tiny, and Grey Highlands. According to industry research, revenue from short-term rentals grew only 31% in big cities, 53% in smaller cities, but it grew by 58% in rural areas. The Blue Mountains and Prince Edward County are the most popular communities in Ontario for short-term rentals. They were full for 2020 and they're already booking for 2022. As these most popular communities in Ontario fill up, there's increasing pressure for destinations like Peterborough and the Kawarthas to pick up that demand. Consumer demand is driving supply and the opportunity. So prior to the pandemic, there was already exponential growth in the sharing economy and operators, but the pandemic has fundamentally shifted consumer behavior, and data shows that leisure travel accommodation is no longer dominated by the hotel category.
Currently Douro-Dummer does not regulate STRs, yet this accommodation choice in Douro-Dummer is growing, and the demand for this type of accommodation is growing faster overall. In Douro-Dummer, it is identified that there are approximately 62 STRs operating in the region. On average, guests are paying $341 per night, which is generating an estimated $3.8 million in gross sales. I would add here that this is the highest price per night in all of Peterborough County. This is a lucrative business because there is a demand for it. While the actual number of STRs are not as many as other communities in the county, Douro-Dummer does have the highest price, as I mentioned, in Peterborough County as a whole.
And so for those that have never stayed at an Airbnb or short-term rental, it's not always apparent why this is an attractive style accommodation. And so it does give an opportunity, though, for individuals to reconnect with nature, enjoy that Canadian experience of cottaging. It's a chance to escape big city life, feel safe with family and friends. And while, again, as Tracy had pointed out earlier, cottaging is unaffordable for many, renting a cottage does provide the same experience, but in an affordable way without the responsibilities of cottage ownership. In addition, short-term rentals can be booked online directly through your phone and come with their own independent reviews from past guests. Homes or cottages can offer private and larger living space, more choice, and it feels more authentic to live like a local. Short-term rentals have proven to be a vital asset during the pandemic and are performing better as an accommodation business when compared to the more traditional forms of lodging, such as hotels. So that's why guests want short-term rentals, but owners find the home sharing economy appealing as it helps to cover the ongoing costs of owning a cottage and allows them to maintain an asset, pay for large expenses that they need to spend on their asset, and cover their taxes. Municipalities that have allowed short-term rentals have felt that there is a benefit to the municipality in some ways. They can boost tourism and attract visitors by providing them with the type of accommodation that they're actually seeking. And it's also a great trial run for visitors to consider this destination beyond seasonal to become a permanent resident in the future. So, as always, with the good always comes the bad, and there are plenty of terrible stories and news stories. And as counselors, I'm sure you're getting your ear full of complaints about the havoc that short-term rentals can be having in your community. The complaints are often about noise, excessive partying, neighbor disputes, increased waste and garbage, commercial activity in a residential zone, increased strangers coming into the community, and with COVID, there was an additional fear that it may contribute to the spread of COVID-19. There's also concern that these short-term cottagers don't always know the lake cottage etiquette, how to launch a boat safely, how to safely paddle a canoe, what are the fishing rules, even knowing that sound travels across the water, those unsafe fireworks, campfire safety, and of course, when it's appropriate to call it a night. And so municipalities are plagued with complaints, but many have little ability to monitor these infractions and encourage compliance. And so many have found themselves in similar conversations and are working hard to regulate this type of activity and strike a balance between encouraging growth to promote economic development and tourism, while also placing limits on the scope of activity permitted to preserve the character of the local communities. And so the province has created several materials to assist municipalities with this topic, as the decision to permit short-term rentals does rest with the lower tier or single tier municipality. Each municipality needs to consider and balance the benefits and challenges of the shared economy while addressing ongoing residential and seasonal resident concerns. PKD has several resources and best practices that we would be happy to share with staff should there be any follow-up actions, and many organizations have produced helpful documents. FOCA has a resource on how to be a responsible cottage host. Airbnb and Verbo also have host guides. We have the province has created a Navigating the Sharing Economy, a 6-decision guide for municipalities. A number of research papers are available on short-term rentals in Canada entitled Uneven Growth, Uneven Impacts. There's consumer trend reports from TIO, TIAC, and Destination Ontario, as well as our most trusted going to municipalities that have already put this in place for those best practices. And so I know that we've given you a lot of content to deal with today, but we know that this is a challenging topic for municipalities for a variety of reasons. We know that short-term rentals are continuing to be popular accommodation choices, but we know that they're causing tensions in your community. So to help manage this ongoing tension, some municipalities have chosen to regulate shared economy and short-term rentals, which does give municipalities the ability to control outcomes and manage risk while seeing the benefits in several ways. So one of which is licensing. And so some municipalities control short-term rentals by requiring each host to be licensed. Consideration for licensing may include a limit on the location, setting a maximum number of consecutive days that could be rented or the number of days within a year. Some may impose limits on the number of guests for each rental, as well as a requirement to meet all fire and safety inspections for the location. There's also zoning bylaws. Under the Planning Act, municipalities have the authority to make local planning decisions that determine whether they'll permit short-term rental uses, and if so, where home sharing would be allowed through official plans and zoning bylaws. There's also self-regulation. And so this is an interesting component of digital platforms like Airbnb. They're interesting because they're able to provide internal feedback and ranking of not only the guests, but also the host. And so the information is helpful for future guests to know that they have a highly rated host and destination, but also for hosts to know if a potential guest has been a problematic guest to other short-term hosts in the past. And while the digital platforms do allow self-regulations, municipalities may also choose to limit the number of licenses or even revoke a license for hosts that generate a large number of complaints as a mitigation measure. There's also taxation. And the province, through the Municipal Act, does allow all lower tier municipalities to levy a visitor tax on short-term rentals. This additional taxation is able to help the municipality offset costs associated with enforcement, tourism infrastructure projects, as well as marketing. And so this is not the first community to face this. Many are in the same position throughout the province, and those municipalities have some great practices and tools to borrow from. And it's important that all municipalities had considerable stakeholder engagement on such a controversial topic. And so despite the information that is available, there does continue to be confusion and considerable tension relating to short-term rentals. And without a doubt, consulting with stakeholders is a crucial part of any municipal decision-making process. And so to conclude and wrap up, we do hope that this is just the start of a conversation and that you found some of the information that Tracy and I were able to share with you helpful. As an economic development agency, we are seeing rapidly changing supply and demands in the tourism industry. What the visitor wants is evolving, and what the visitor wants is to experience short-term rentals, especially in communities such as Douro-Dummer. Municipalities are struggling to manage and regulate this disruptive new style of accommodation. Both large and small communities are facing these new realities and changes, and many have taken steps to address it that councils can study. Best practices from different communities are available to learn from and show how to balance tourism with community concerns. And this presentation was also provided to County Council in August of this year, and it was recommended, the direction was that the county create a working committee to tackle this challenge together. And we look forward to working with you on this committee, especially the tourism team, as we have a lot of background on this. And that concludes, and happy to answer any questions that you might have.
That's great. Thank you, Rhonda and Tracy. It's always good to have you here. This is a huge coin with many sides, and I know we're all trying to flip it in the right direction and do the right thing, because we've heard from both sides of the argument. There's no question. Just to get an update, I guess, on how we stand with that. I know Alana was heavily involved after we initiated our discussion. Alana, can you give us a bit of an update on how you and the other townships are dealing with it right now?
Sure, thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to council. We have had preliminary discussions just with a working group, as Tracy had mentioned, with other members across the county. So I believe that the doodle poll has gone out for a date, although we haven't quite established that yet. So that is in the works. We also have been doing our own kind of review. I think it's important, though, that we work collaboratively with, shared borders and, in our case, a shared lake. So just so that we all have a united approach. I'm not sure if that will be the ultimate outcome, but we look forward to working with the county and anybody else that can provide us with some insight, because there's clearly multiple views on short-term rentals and how we're going to regulate them.
Thank you, Alana. Yeah, there's no easy answer here. There's no red button to push to make all the issues go away. Okay, members of council, it's your opportunity to ask Rhonda and Tracy and Alana any questions you'd like about this subject. Go ahead. Go ahead, Sheila.
Thank you. Through you to anybody. I understand that a lot of income is brought into the township and the county through rentals like this. And I also understand the other side of it, where there are so many families that feel they've been taken away from the joy of their cottage because of irresponsible renters next door or across the road or something like that. And I think whatever we do, we have to do something that's going to try and help both sides, because just as an example, which is the example I get most, they can be from Toronto, from Ottawa, from wherever, dying to spend time at a cottage, have zero knowledge of how to, as you mentioned, operate a boat or paddle a canoe or anything like that. And they can rent a boat or a Sea-Doo, which is brought out, and they're given a half an hour instruction, handed the keys and said, have a good time. They don't know the lakes. They don't know the rocks. They don't understand many of the things you mentioned. And I think this is something that has to be addressed too, because there have been some near misses in my area. Just a comment.
Okay, thank you for the comment. Any other questions? Mr. Watt, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much, ladies. Good presentation. It is a struggle for everyone, as we know. I guess, and it has come up in some of our discussions, is the mom and dad that are renting their cottage out for a week or two to maybe another family member or a neighbor there, stuff like that. That it's a little different than some of these ones that are buying up 8, 10, 12 properties and trying to make a killing on this. And that's where we have to really come up with a fine line in between. Like, you can't have one rule for one and one rule for another. So it's going to be very, very challenging. I applaud your approach to this, and hopefully between yourselves and the county committee and anyone else, we can kind of come up with some kind of helpful situation. And I agree with Councillor Landsman. Like, it's the next door neighbor. I don't live on the lake, so I don't see it every day. If I lived beside that person, or if I was there for the cottage, my cottage for the summer, and had to put up with this every day, and maybe it isn't every day. I mean, some I'm sure are great tenants in these cottages, and some of them are probably, like you say, like almost on the verge of lunatics, kind of thing like that. Say that, but I mean, there is that big gap. So it's a matter of how we go about doing this and be fair to everyone. But thank you very much.
Okay, anybody else? Go ahead, Heather.
Your Worship, through you, thank you. Thank you to Rhonda and Tracy for your presentation. It's great to kind of hear the ECDEV benefits of short-term rentals, but also some of the potential ways that we can mitigate the challenges. Tracy, specifically to you, I believe you've mentioned the numbers, 38 short-term rentals on Airbnb, 21 on Verbo, and 3 on other. How are you, where is that data coming from? I know I can go onto Airbnb and see all the Airbnbs that are on, but when it comes to Verbo and other specifically, I feel like that number is underreported. Can you speak to that?
Absolutely, through you, Mr. Mayor. So we have an unsolicited and unverified report that came to us through the Hamari group. And this group is working with municipalities across Ontario. And as the STR discussion came up, the reports were provided to us. As I said, they're not, we have not reviewed them, and they were unsolicited. And from what they're telling me, they are getting all of this information off of the what's publicly available to them at the time. And then there's another group that I've met with, and it's Air DNA, and they're getting most of their information from what's publicly available, and they're putting together analytics that bring together all of this information to summarize it. So it is possible that it could be underreported, and there's also other management companies that may not be included in these numbers as well.
Fair enough, thank you. And just another question, I think it was more so to a point that Rhonda had made. With respect to a visitor tax, DMF, or some other type of taxation that we could use for enforcement, how, just anecdotally even, how have other municipalities dealt with that on the short-term rentals specifically, that any kind of taxation reporting so that we know what we're taxing on per stay? I know it's very simple when we're talking about hotels, but how do we do that on the short-term rental?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Great question. And so certainly the very simplistic, overly simplistic answer is certainly the council, the lower tier municipality, is able to pass a bylaw identifying what is permitted, and within that what the rules are for collecting a tax should they impose that. So it certainly is in the hands of the lower tier municipality to pass such a bylaw and identify the limitations and the scope.
But sorry, just a follow up, but how do we manage the reporting? Yeah, we can pass that bylaw, but we can't ask Airbnb to produce a report of overnight stays in Douro-Dummer Township so we know what the accurate amount ought to be per stay. Does it work like a DMF in a hotel? I guess should be the question.
Thank you. And sorry, thanks for that clarification. So through you, Mr. Mayor. So Tracy had mentioned Hamari as one organization that is able to assist with the collection of this. And certainly in other municipalities, Airbnb and Verbos have submitted that tax through their platforms because it's a digital software tool that is available. And so in communities that do have passed that legislation and that rule that they're in the bylaw that makes it a requirement, they just add it into their system, no more than they would add on HST or something to that effect.
Great, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. And I think it's those kinds of questions that Alana and other county reps are going to be looking into, finding the proper way. Okay, any other questions? Not seeing any hands. I will ask for a motion to receive that very interesting information. It's not an easy thing to deal with. Sheila and Heather, all in favor? That motion is approved. Thank you very much, ladies. You're always welcome at Douro-Dummer.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving right ahead now. We do have a public meeting to deal with, a couple of them actually. This is file number RO921, Wildfire Golf Course. And I would like a mover to open the public meeting, please. Tom and Sheila, all in favor? Okay, we are now indeed in the public meeting, and I will call on Martina to give us the information that we need to proceed. Go ahead.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So as stated, this is application RO921. It's for Wildfire Golf Course. Glenn Stonehouse is the contact, and he's on our screen this evening, and his agent is Kevin Duguay, who's also attending the meeting today. The property is located at Concession 6, Part Lot 30, Part Road Allowance, Concession 7, Part Lots 30 and 31, Registered Plan 45R 12362, Parts 1 to 6. It's also known as 2215 Wildfire Drive, located at Wildfire Drive and County Road 6 in the Dummer Ward. Notice of complete application was circulated via first-class prepaid mail on June 29th, 2021. The public meeting notice was given on the 10th day of September by first-class prepaid mail and email as prescribed under the regulations of the Ontario Planning Act. The signage that was required to be posted under Ontario Regulation 454-06, Section 4 was not completed. As we move forward, council will need to decide whether they wish to hold the public meeting today, or if they would prefer to defer the public meeting until the public meeting signage has been in place for a minimum of 20 days to meet the requirement of the regulations under the Planning Act. That's the first thing that council needs to consider.
Okay, so I guess before we move any further, that's what council will have to decide. The rules are the rules. And inadvertently, the matter did not get posted for the 20 days. So it's going to be council's decision here to allow the application to proceed without the posting notification, or to defer it for 20 days to allow that to happen. So it's up to council. Let's hear from you, please. Who would like to chime in on this? There's a decision to be made one way or the other. Either allow this to proceed tonight without notification, or wait for 20 days and follow the rules to the book. Go ahead, Tom.
Yes, thank you very much. Through you, Mr. Mayor. So there was, just so I'm clear on that, there was actually no posting of it at all? Like we missed the complete 20 days, or was it done for 5 or 10 and it's only been partway through? Or can I get a little clarification on that, please?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Watt. Signage was not posted at all. It was created but not posted by the applicant.
Okay.
Other members of council, what is your feeling on this? One way or the other? So we don't want to take any more people's time than we have to. Go ahead, Heather.
Mr. Mayor, through you. It's unfortunate that this is the turn of events. Certainly, as a municipality, we are required to do our part in maintaining certain criteria and benchmarks and timelines, and we would hope that applicants are doing the same. Certainly, we would be probably held accountable if it was the other way around. I'm a little reluctant, to be honest, to move forward with the process.
Well, let me hear a motion then, so we can have some direction to go in. Are you willing to make that motion, Heather?
Certainly, that we defer, I suppose, would be the correct term, the public meeting until such time that the notice period requirements have been met.
Do we have a seconder to that? Sheila?
Yes, I would second that. And just to make a comment, there's no way you could ever know who might or might not have attended a meeting. So I think that's the only fair thing to do.
Sheila is the seconder, and Councillor Watson has made the motion. Is there any discussion on the motion that's on the floor to delay for at least 20 days? No other discussion? I'll call for the vote, please. All in favor? That motion is approved. Mr. Duguay, although you are always welcome on the screen here at Douro-Dummer, I do apologize for that, but council have voted to delay the public meeting for 20 days.
Am I able to speak to the item or no?
I'll allow you a brief comment, but it's not going to change the fact what we just did. Yeah.
Thank you, Your Worship. Notice of the statutory public meeting was issued by direct mail. There has been robust conversation with stakeholder agencies. So area property owners within 120-meter radius of all boundaries of this property have received notice twice, probably notice of the complete application and subsequently through the notice of public meeting. So the most impacted property owners have received notice, and I'm not aware that there has been any written submissions nor public response to same. I have talked earlier today with Martina about the sign posting and how that process would work. I acknowledge that my office was contacted by phone on September 10th at 3 o'clock. I would acknowledge I was not in my office. I was away, and then it was gone the weekend to our family cottage, enjoying it. So the sign, I would imagine, still sits in your municipal offices. So it is regrettable that this has happened, but from my perspective, I think public notice has been issued. And I'm not aware of anybody from the public that is in attendance to participate in that session. Mr. Chairman, or excuse me, Your Worship, it'd be important then to know if it is deferred, because we're all busy, just to understand what that public meeting date would be.
We'll try to, we'll firm that up right now if we can. Martina, have you figured that out? Is that our next meeting? Is that 20 days?
I just need to calculate this, Mr. Mayor. Wait 1 moment, please.
Okay. We'll certainly do it.
It will be sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor, apologies.
Yep.
It will be the first meeting in November.
First meeting in November is the first available time we can do it, right?
Correct.
Okay, Kevin, I do apologize to you and the applicant.
Do
Life
we know,
gets in the way sometimes.
Your Worship, do we know that meeting date?
Oh,
Sorry,
through you,
Martina.
Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Duguay, it is November 2nd at 5 p.m.
Noted. Thank you.
Okay, so we hope that at that time we'll get things all wrapped up for you. Kevin,
Very
thank
good.
you. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Could I have a motion, please, to close the public meeting? Heather and Sheila, all in favor? That motion is approved. Okay, thank you. We have another public meeting now. Item 8.3. If you can just hold on a second, just 10 seconds, hold on. Sorry about that. We have another public meeting. This is for a zoning bylaw amendment. This is file R1221 for the Grady's. And I would like a motion, please, to open the public meeting. Tom? Heather? All in favor? That motion is approved. Our public meeting is now officially open. I do see a face in the bottom. Oh, yes, that perhaps is Mr. Grady. I will ask Martina if you could please give us the background of this file.
Very good. So this is file number R1221 for Kenneth and Pamela Grady. They're both with us this evening. The property is located at Concession 3, Part Lot 5, registered number 45R8274. Part 1 and lots 1 through 6 on registered plan number 45R-17155. Sorry, the notice of complete application and public meeting was circulated via first-class prepaid mail on September 9th, 2021, via email and mail as per the regulations of the Ontario Planning Act. Kenneth and Pamela have submitted an application for rezoning that is before you to rezone portions of the subject land from rural RU zone to rural with a holding provision. So it would be RU-H and environmental conservation EC zones. This amendment is required as a condition of consent for the severance of 2 residential lots, file numbers B4520 and B4620, to require that the building on the 2 lots to be severed is controlled by site plan approval, is controlled by the site plan approval process, and to prohibit construction and/or site alteration within the hydrological features and their associated vegetative protective zones, also known as VPZs, on both the retained parcel, on the retained parcel as identified in the environmental impact study, which was undertaken by DM Wills dated July 2020, and it was in your package for council to see, along with all of the other supporting documents on this file. At the time of writing my report and today, we've only received one comment, which was from the Autonomy Region Conservation Authority, that they felt this application met all of the required policies and that permits will be required in the future. And we have not heard from the public written or via phone or email on this file.
Okay, thank you very much, Martina. It is now time for the applicant. If you would like to add any information at all to what you've just heard, I see Kenneth is at the bottom of the screen. And Pam, good to see you. Kenneth and Pam, would you like to say anything?
I don't think so, Jim. We've been a long process here getting through this, and I believe this is the last step. We've had 2 approvals already, and this will be the 3rd. So whatever you guys have to do, we're just going to wait for you guys to do it.
Okay, so you understand all the information that Martina read out, and you're on the beam.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, is there any questions for clarity by members of council, first of all, before I open it up to anyone else? Any questions that you'd like cleared up? Seeing the heads nod. Is there anyone on the screen who would like to speak for, in support of this application other than the Grady's? Is there anyone who would like to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone who would like to speak against this application? Last call. Is there anyone who would like to speak against this application? Okay, seeing no one else, our public meeting is now over. I would ask for a motion to close the public meeting. Sheila, Heather, all in favor? That motion is approved. Now, just so the Grady's don't have to stay up till midnight, till the end of our meeting, to see if we've approved it or not, with council's permission, I would like to see a motion for Bylaw 2160. Tom will move the motion, and Heather, you'll second it to approve the application. All in favor? That is approved. And the Grady's, it is approved. You can move forward. The normal 20-day appeal period applies with all these things, regardless of what we do. So good luck to both of you, and we wish you a lot of luck. How's that? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We're done.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye now.
Okay, moving right along. We're at item 9 now in our agenda. And this is other business and staff reports. Our staff are here to answer any questions that you may have. Item 9.1 is the Township Compensation Agreement. Alana, you want to speak to that, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, the recommendation on this report is that CAO 2021-34 report dated October 5th, 2021 regarding the Township of Douro-Dummer compensation agreement be received, and that bylaw 2021-61 and bylaw 2021-62 be considered at the appropriate time of the meeting. I will just make one comment. I did provide, this compensation agreement had come to council, I believe, in 2019 for 2 years, was supposed to be reviewed prior to 2021, obviously with COVID and so forth. It did come back just to address the increase in salary. So we felt it was a good time to just review it and take a look. There was no major changes that we were making per se. I did have a conversation though following the posting of the agenda, and there was one concern, just the portion that was removed with regards to the dental fee guide. And I think it was more previous conversations that had happened. They were worried that if it was out of the bylaw, that it could be modified by senior staff or something to that effect. And they would prefer if we left it in. So it doesn't really impact anything on the compensation agreement other than that area that we took out. We would just put that back in on the dental fee guide. But other than that, the rest will remain.
Okay, you heard the recommendation. That is before you. What would you like to do? Motion, please. Sheila?
I would move the recommendation as outlined.
And a seconder, please. Heather, call for the vote. All in favor? That motion is approved. Item 9.2 is the road risk assessment. And Jake, our Public Works Manager, I'm going to turn it over to you, and perhaps you can give us the background on this, please.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, the recommendation before you is that the Public Works 2021-32 report dated October 5th, 2021 regarding a road risk assessment be received, and that council approved the recommendation to increase the current contract by approximately $6,500 in order that DM Wills can proceed with the road risk assessment on Birchview Road in conjunction with the roads needs study. I've provided some detail in the report as to what this road risk assessment will involve. Completing this at this time will we'll receive some cost savings if we complete this at this time alongside the roads needs study. If council has any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
My only question, I guess, to you, Jake, is: are other roads in the township also on your list for this type of thing?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, there are lots of other roads within the township that require some additional work as well. The sole reason to bring this forward at this time was to catch it in the roads needs study if council wished to visit some of the concerns that were brought forward at previous meetings.
Okay, council have seen the report and have read the report. How do you want to move forward? Heather.
Your Worship, through you, I'll move the recommendation that's before us.
Okay, there is a mover. That motion is on the floor. Do we have a seconder or any comment on that motion? Seconder, please. Sheila?
I will second it.
Is there any discussion on the motion? Any discussion at all? Call for the vote then. All in favor? That motion is approved. Moving ahead to committee minutes and other reports, Deputy Mayor Mower is not here. He usually has a very thorough update on county council matters. Not a lot to report on. It's extremely busy. Service delivery review has been done, much like it's been done in Douro-Dummer, and we're doing our very best to try to streamline things and ultimately save money. Of course, our official plan is still underway. We are also in the middle of our transportation master plan. We are encouraging everyone to communicate about the ATV issue on county roads. And it's a very, very busy time. We are still meeting virtually, and I don't believe there's any hurry to get back into the council chambers. But everyone's been very busy at the county. And that would be my report. A motion, please, to receive that report. Heather? And
second
Tom.
with a question, please. And I don't need an answer right now, but I do believe Councillor Moher did say something with the extensive roadworks that was on the agenda for 2021, which they've been doing a great job. I mean, considering what's going on. Part of the Warsaw Road from Highway 28 towards Warsaw, I thought was going to be done this year and some next year. I'm not sure if that's still the case or whether I'm off on that one by a year, but if we could get an update on that some of these days, that would be fantastic. Thank you.
Yep, we'll get an update. There's a huge laundry list, and I'm not aware of anyone who has that stuff committed to memory, to be quite honest with you. Motion on the floor. All in favor? Motion is approved. We move ahead to 10.2, Departmental Reports. You have had the reports in your package. They have been publicly available. Everyone has read them. It's a great idea. It gives all the departments a chance to update us, and there's not a lot we don't know because of these reports. So I would Have a motion, please, to receive them all. And if you want to pull one out, feel free to do so. A motion to receive the departmental reports. Tom and Sheila, all in favor? That's approved. Anybody want to speak to one of them? They're simply update information, and very well done. And Alana, I hope you'll thank staff for that. I know there's a fair bit of work, but it's a great way to keep the public and council aware of all the work you're doing behind the scenes. So thank you. Okay, item 10.3, again, is a report that's in your package about the Santa Claus Parade Committee. What would you like to do with that? A motion to receive it, please. Heather and Tom, any discussion on the motion? Go ahead, Sheila.
Oh, thank you. Since this was written, actually physically written on the 22nd of September, and I'm questioning item 2, whether or not there should be concerns about that. And since you've read the report, you'll understand that it's to have a table with single wrapped candy canes that people could just take as they pass by. I'd like council's thoughts on that.
Okay, do you want candy canes or not? Probably in the spirit of erring on the side of caution.
That, yeah.
You know, no matter what you do, you
I know.
can't do enough to be careful.
Yeah.
I hope next year you can do what you always did. I'm hoping. Candy cane comment, Heather?
Yes, Your Worship, I'll speak to the candy canes. Through you, I believe there was something similar done last year at another municipality that had a Santa Claus parade, and they were using tongs to hand them out. And I'm only aware of this because we were, as the Canada Day Parade Committee, at one point considering handing out things, and that was what was referenced, had been done with some success in the past. So, I certainly wouldn't be adverse to that, but I would lend to the committee and what they feel is manageable within their volunteer resources and what they want to be able to try and pull off in the time that's available.
I'd like to do a phone call to the health unit about it. They're the ones who call the shots. So
We can do that.
probably would be your best advice. Whether
We
they
can do that.
recommend that or not. Okay.
Other than
report
that,
is-
everything was okay with the report, and I presume council would be supporting it.
Motion's on the floor to receive and support the concept that is laid out in that report. And Alana, would it be a lot to ask you to give the health unit a shout and just get their advice on the candy cane?
We're happy to
Scenario?
do that, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, good. You get right on that in the morning. All in favor?
There's no need for sarcasm.
Approved. Sorry, Sheila, did you say something? No? I just heard something there. Next is the Donwood Parks Committee, a report, 10.4. Go ahead, Heather.
Your Worship, I'll move to receive the report, and I'd like to just speak to it briefly, if I may.
Okay, seconder Tom, go ahead, Heather.
Thank you. Through you, this is a success story. Of course, the request that's coming forward is for council to approve the disbandment of the committee, which was formed back in 2019. The committee has a small but mighty group of dedicated volunteers, and with the support of staff and council and donors, businesses in the community, as well as the Trillion Foundation, they were able to not only do a significant improvement to Clintonia Park, but also a series of other improvements to the parks in Donwood. So they've done, or they feel they've done, all that they can do. And as the report outlines, it kind of breaks down all of the work that they did during their tenure. It has shifted to a bit of a grassroots organization, if you will, with a few individuals who are looking to continue to work with staff and council and the neighbors and community to do some ongoing improvements, not just at Clintonia Park, but also at Daleview Park, where a recent disc golf course was installed as well. So that's it. I mean, certainly thanks to all those who were involved. Thanks to council, of course, the mayor, deputy mayor, who attended the ribbon cutting a couple of weeks ago. Was very well attended, and I'm sure the mayor can attest to that. So I'm hoping that council will be supportive in disbanding the committee rather.
No, that's great, Heather. It was a great little event. What a great bunch of people. And to me, that was the epitome of what a small community is all about. And they were wonderful. And I'm glad that a few of us were able to show them our support. So it's a beautiful facility too. So thanks to everybody. Okay, that motion's on the floor. All in favor? That motion is approved. Douro-Dummer Library Board minutes from the 24th of August. A motion, please, to receive those minutes. Tom and Sheila, all in favor? That motion is approved. Okay, we move ahead to bylaws. I'm going to ask Martina to please review the bylaws that we are about to vote on. Go ahead, Martina.
Very good. So the first bylaw that's listed in this section is 2021-59. That was the one for wildfire. So we will not be reviewing that bylaw this evening. The next bylaw that needs to be looked at is 2021-61. This is the amended compensation agreement that council discussed earlier in the meeting, and this one is specifically for non-management staff. And then the other one is 2021-62. Again, the compensation agreement, and this one is for management staff.
Okay. A motion, please, for the bylaws. Tom.
Yes, I'll make that motion with the small amendment that our CAO, Elena, had asked to include back in the agreements.
Seconder. Heather, all in favor? That motion is approved. The bylaws are passed. We have an action item from the Township of Huron-Kinloss about the Provincial Offences Court process. What is your decision on that? To support or receive? Heather?
I'll simply move to receive.
Receive. Seconder? Sheila? All in favor? That motion's approved. We have no information items. We have no accounts, no notices of motion, unless someone has one prepared. Nope, see no hands. Any announcements? Just for interest's sake, I was honored to be at Camp Kawartha and the opening of their new health center on the weekend. The Rotary Club and all kinds of private donors have made it possible. It was a wonderful little ceremony, and I got to say, Douro-Dummer came out of it looking extremely good because of the assistance we gave them. So that was a very nice thing, and it's a beautiful building, and we should all be very proud of Camp Kawartha, located in Douro-Dummer. Any other announcements that you'd like to make? Go ahead, Tom.
Yes, thank you very much through you, Mr. Mayor. The work has commenced over on the dam behind the former restaurant Butter Tart Factory. They do have safety fences and so on up in there, but I just want to caution everyone that, be very careful going through there, because I notice people still go over the dam. So just that it has commenced, and they're going to get at it as quick as possible.
Anybody else? Okay, no closed session, confirming bylaw. 2021-63, Sheila. Seconder, please. Tom, all in favor? That is approved. And a motion, please, to adjourn the meeting. Heather, Sheila, all in favor? Okay, thank you all very much. Thank you for staff for all the hard work. And we'll be back in a couple of weeks from the Township of Douro-Dummer. Thank you, everyone who has been watching. And we'll see you again at our next meeting. Bye for now.